Okay, right, welcome back. So in this second video, I want to continue with the basics of trig graphs, right? So one of the aspects I did not touch are some of the questions that you normally get on trig graphs that you need to know how to answer them and what exactly are they asking you. So in this case, you have two graphs. So I will say you have f of x, which is your normal sine graph, and then you have your g of x, which is your normal cos graph. Okay, so you see them that I also labeled them here on the graph. So now you also get questions like this in trig, where they say, I know these questions may be tricky to some of you, but I need you guys to understand today. So the question will be, for which values of x is, right, 1. They say for which values of x is f of x equal to g of x. What exactly are they asking us here, or what exactly are they testing us on? They want us to give the values of x where f of x is equal to g of x. So in simple terms, it is where the two graphs intersect. So what is the value or values of x where the two graphs intersect? You'll see that your graphs are intersecting here, of which the value of x is equal to 45 degrees. And where else? Is here, where the value of x is equal to 225 degrees. So this question can also be asked as, for which values of x is f of x minus g of x equal to 0. So they are basically asking you the same question, because you can rearrange this to become f of x is equal to g of x. So just know that if they ask you something like this, it's the same as this. So they're asking you where the two graphs meet, right? And the answer is that and that, right? I hope that makes sense. Now, second question might be, for which values of x? Okay, remember we're answering the questions that says for which values of x is f of x. Okay, just erase that. For which values of x is f of x greater than g of x. So in simple English, what are they saying? Where in your two graphs is f of x above g of x? Okay, so we will start from 0 and look at the graph of f of x. My graph of f of x from 0 all the way to 45. It is what? It is below. It is below what? It is below g of, okay, excuse me there. It is below g of x. So from 0 all the way to 45, my f of x is below g of x. But I want the values of x where f of x is above g of x. Now from 45 going forward, what happens? So from 45, my f of x, there it is, it is above g of x. Because when you look at the g of x, which is the red line, it is below this f of x. right? So g of x, there it is below f of x. So I wanted where f of x is above g of x. So it is from which which values of x? It's from 45 all the way to 225. Because what happens from 225 going forward? What happens from 225 is that my f of x now is below. It is now below what? G of x. See, you see. So only, it is now below g of x, only from this point here. Only from 45 all the way to 225 is my f of x greater than g of x. In simple mathematics, or how do we represent that mathematically, we'll say is between 45 degrees and 225 degrees. So is where x is greater than 45 degrees but less than 225. Because we know it's between 45 and 225. That is where f of x is above g of x. I hope that makes sense. But otherwise, if the question is other way around, where they say, for which values of x is f of x less than g of x? They're saying where in your graph is f of x below g of x? We know that from 0 all the way to 45, my f of x is below g of x. After 45, my f of x goes above g of x. So from 0 to 45, from 0 to 45, my f of x is less than g of x. Also, where else? You will see that after 225, my f of x is also below the g of x. Okay? It means the other answer is that it is between 225 onwards. 225 going that side, my f of x is below g of x. So 225 and 360. It's between 225 and 360. Okay, so that is how you answer these questions. Now let's look at the last one. The last one will then be, for which values of x is f of x times g of x greater than 0? What are they asking us here? They're saying, where in your graph are the two graphs positive, or are the two graphs negative? Because remember, positive times positive is positive, which is greater than 0. Or negative times negative is positive, which is greater than 0. Okay? So they are asking us, where in our graph are the two graphs above? Are the two graphs above x-axis, or are the two graphs below x-axis? So we'll go to our graphs. So when you look at f of x is above x-axis from 0 all the way to 180, right? So we also want the g of x to be above, but the g of x is above x-axis from 0 all the way to 90 degrees. That means, because after 90 degrees it goes below x-axis, that means here, that means this piece here, from 0 to 90 both my graphs are above x-axis. So we'll say the answer is x is greater than 0 degrees but less than 90. Right? Remember, we want where our graphs are both above x-axis or below x-axis. So what happens after 90 degrees? After 90 degrees, you have this one is below, this one is below, but the other one is still above. So it is below, it is below. Now when you come to 180, right, I'll draw a line here at 180. Oh, okay, I'll draw a line at 180. So between 90 and 180, what happens? Between 90 and 180, f is at the top, it's above x-axis, and the g is below. So that does not meet our criteria. But between 180 and between 180 and 270, right? Between 180 and 270, both my graphs are below x-axis, which is where I want them to be, either above x-axis or below x-axis. So yes, our second answer is x is greater than 180 or x is less than 270. Because when you look at it, my graph of f of x is below x-axis and my graph of g of x is below x, is also below x-axis here. So that is how you actually answer these questions, right? Even if they choose to say less than will mean that where your graph is above and the other one is below. Even if they say f of x divided by g of x is greater than 0. So the same here, they will want you to get where both of your graphs are positive or both your graphs are negative, because they will give you positive. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So we will do some of the exam papers. Okay, thank you for listening.